Right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Let's stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for joining. We had a problem, not enough chairs, so this is very nice. All right, public forum, public forum sign up. Reminder, anybody who wants to speak tonight can put their names on the back there. There's a sign up for the visitor guest book.
So I don't have any announcements, and we're going to go ahead and have our presentation from the Oregon Department of Education School Facilities Group come first. So I have Michael Elliott coming up here, and I'll go ahead and share the screen and you can tell me when you
around maybe over there.
you can, or you can sit here at the chairs and the table.
Can you see it from there though?
And
Fair enough. Whatever's easier for you.
And Michael, please introduce yourself and kind of what your role is, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you. Board Chair, members of the board, my name is Michael Elliott. I'm the Managing Director of School Facilities and Finance, the Oregon Department of Education. My co-presenter, Leanna Hyman, who is our awesome and TAP administrator, should be here shortly and will join when she can. Awesome stands for Oregon School Capital Improvement Matching Program. Awesome sounds way better, it's easy to say. And then TAP is the Technical Assistance Program. So we were invited by Superintendent Stevens to talk about Oregon Department of Education programs on capital funding and what was there and what was available and kind of a little bit of history and stuff. So just showed up. We're off.
Find it.
Yes. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So, okay, so kind of like the brief agenda here. Yes, please do. You're up, actually. She is the star, so.
Hi, Leanna. Could you introduce yourself to the board?
Sure. My name's Leanna Hyman. I administer the Oregon School Capital Improvement Matching Program. I don't know what Michael has already told you, but we'll be referring to the Oregon School Capital Improvement Matching Program probably more frequently by its acronym, AWESOME. That's OSCIM. So it'll be a little easier to follow. The other acronym you may hear us use is one for general obligation bonds. We say GO bonds. And then just one more bit of alphabet soup is ODE is for Oregon Department of Education.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should I take it away?
Yes, please do.
So today we're just going to give a short presentation designed to answer these key questions. How do districts in Oregon fund school capital expenditures? What is AWESOME and how does it work? Why it's important to invest in school facilities? And what can Jervis expect if the board decides to put a bond measure on the ballot in the May 2024 election?
All right, so basically when it comes to school financing, there's three main sources of funding. There's federal, state, and local. And for school infrastructure, federal basically doesn't exist. And if it does exist, it's a very specific targeted program. It's usually like, we're going to do HVAC, or we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And so it comes with lots of strings, lots of attachments, lots of applications. But for general maintenance, for where a school district gets to decide how they're going to spend their funds, whether they're going to new school, renovate an old school, federal funds are rare and few and not usually going to be effective that way. Next is state. For most of Oregon's history, up to 2016, the state provided $0 for local infrastructure improvements for schools. That was all borne by the local school districts passing those GO bonds, general obligation bonds, on their community agreeing to that, passing the bond, and then those bonds would be used for major capital improvements. And that brings me to that third source of income, which is that local income. In some districts, they're able to pass bonds relatively easily. Most districts in Oregon have struggled with this, and that's where the AWESOME program comes in. Next slide, please. So the question that we get frequently is, well, can't the state school fund cover this? Can't the general support provided by the state through that big note that's usually gets the news a lot during legislative session, can't that solve this problem for us? Well, the state school fund is really more about the operations and maintenance of the school district. So we pulled Jervis's school numbers from, I think, the 2021-22 school year. Those are the last audited figures we have. And our state school fund, which is the general purpose grant and the transportation grant, roughly equaled about $17.5 million. And that was split up between instruction and support services. So that's all of your teachers, that's all of your librarians, your media specialists, that's your administration. And on support services, those are your custodians, those are your maintenance people, your groundskeepers, all of those salaries and stuff. That's really what is being spent with the general purpose grant with the state school fund. Right now in Oregon, it's about an average $500 per square foot. That's a little low, but $500 per square foot to build a new school. So if you're looking at a 30,000 square foot school district, that's rough math is about $15 million. And so that's basically a year's worth of operating expenses. So it'd be very difficult to find the level of savings needed to do major capital improvements through the general obligation, not general obligation, but the general purpose grant and the state school fund. And that's where most districts then turn to general obligation bonds to provide that additional revenue.
Okay, so what is Awesome? The Awesome program was created by Article 11P of the Oregon Constitution. It's a grant program that uses state funds to provide incentives to local communities to pass GO bonds. Starting in 2016, the Awesome program has been providing grants to match up $4 million and $8 million of school districts' local GO bonds. The amount of each grant is determined by a funding formula. This year, the state legislature approved a bill that will increase the Awesome grants to the Awesome grant amount to a maximum of $6 million for most districts and up to $12 million for the larger districts. This change will go into effect for the May 2024 election. And just to give you an example, so if Jervis were to pursue a GO bond in the next election, they would be eligible to receive a funding commitment up to $6 million. And that would be in advance of the bond measure being on the ballot. So they'd be able to reach out to the community, notify them that they have the $6 million commitment from the state. However, the district still has to apply to Awesome. And the application process for Awesome requires districts to submit a facility assessment report and a long-range facility plan. And the facility assessment report is typically on all of the district's buildings. The long-range facility plan takes into account student enrollment, the community's educational vision, and let's see, and actually in deferred maintenance as well. So the plan is typically mapped out for about 10 years. And that's part of the Awesome application process. Now, if they're successful, that's when we would offer the commitment in advance of the election. And then once the district passes their bond, they get the grant. If they don't pass the bond, they don't get the grant, unfortunately. I do want to mention that the long-range facility planning process, it's a pretty entailed long process. It requires community input, stakeholder input, and we see this lasting, especially with the facility assessment portion, about 1 to 2 years. Jervis took advantage of other state funding we have available at Oregon Department of Education. I manage that grant program as well, where we offer grants to school districts for facility assessment work, long-range facility planning, seismic assessment, and hazardous material assessment. And Jervis took advantage of the facility assessment grant, the long-range facility planning grant, and the seismic assessment grant in 2020, and had those reports prepared and has used that as part of their previous Awesome applications when they went out for a bond in May of 2022 and May of 2023. The trick is that these assessment reports are only valid for 4 years. So this next election is actually the last time that the district can use these reports that they had prepared earlier as part of their application. If they either decide not to go out for a bond or they don't pass their bond, they'll need to start this process again. And like I said, it's fairly entailed. It's about 1 to 2 years. You know, again, it might be shorter since Jervis already has done this, but still, it would really be a setback if they weren't able to use the reports again, going back to kind of square one.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Are you set on the, that it's up to $6 million? How does that wash out at the end? How do we know we're actually gonna be getting?
So, maybe you can help look. So that when we do the application process, it's basically determined by that we have a priority list. And that's based on a funding formula. And I believe Jervis is 43 on that priority list out of 197 school districts. So actually Jervis is in the top portion.
Yeah, I didn't know. It's 197 of us.
197 districts total that are eligible to apply for Awesome. However, not all districts apply to Awesome for each election. So it really depends on who's in the pool, where they land on the priority list. And I was going to get to that. Jervis does have a good chance of getting a funding commitment because we do have a pretty good budget for this current biennium.
And the amount of the grant is based on the amount of bond you think you'll pass. So as part of your application, you will give us an estimate of what you think, or Jervis would give us an estimate of what they think they would pass. And it's a 1-to-1 ratio up to 6 million. So we have some really tiny districts out there. I'm gonna, Adrian in Eastern Oregon, they wanted a $950,000 bond. And so they got a $950,000 match. St. Paul just did a $3 million bond. They got a $3 million match. So as long as you're going out for a bond that's $6 million or greater, you would get the full $6 million.
Mm-hmm. If I may, what the interesting case with St. Paul is they were eligible for a $4 million grant, but they chose to go be safe and just stick with 3 million. And they did pass their bond, so they got the $3 million match, but their bond is only for 3 million.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Let's look at next slide. So why are school facilities important? Investment in school facilities has both direct effects and indirect effects on student outcomes and cyclical effects on local communities' overall quality of life. In general, the life expectancy of school buildings, even if they're well maintained, is between 30 to 40 years. After 40 years, school buildings typically begin to rapidly deteriorate. The renovation of older school buildings is needed in order to provide a good learning environment where students and staff members want to spend time. To keep school buildings and school grounds functioning to meet the needs of increasing enrollment, districts will have repair costs that go well beyond their operating budget and will need additional resources for funding to cover these costs. Which is why modernized school buildings that have been renovated can help mitigate things like indoor air pollutants, such as mold, can protect students from lead exposure, asbestos, other hazardous materials that can adversely affect students and teachers' health. And even things such as higher quality lighting, better heating and cooling systems, they can contribute positively to students' outcomes. And also more efficient mechanical systems can lead to reduced annual operating costs for facilities, permitting more money to be directed towards classroom instruction. More adequate and physically appealing facilities improve teacher satisfaction and retention, thus reducing the need to counterbalance bad working conditions with higher wages. And investments in school facilities can generally increase the quality of amenities accessible to the community, as well as provide open play spaces, tracks for running, and perhaps even community meeting spaces, which in turn enhances property values in the local community. As we've mentioned before, state funding alone can't cover the cost of upgrading school facilities, but programs like Awesome work in partnership with the school district community to incentivize the public's investment in school facilities, which helps make these much needed building improvements feasible. And that's the slide. So for the 2023-25 biennium, the legislature has allocated $100 million for Awesome grants. There is an additional a little more than $26 million of remaining funds from the previous biennium, and that will carry over, which means that a total of a little over $126 million is available to the Awesome program to award these grants for election cycles. So the November 2023, May 2024, November 2024, and May 2025. And so like we said, if Jervis decides to go out for a bond measure in May, they'd be eligible for a $6 million commitment up to. And you know that Jervis wants to take full advantage of this. It sounds like if you did go out for a bond, it would be for at least $6 million, and to take full advantage of the state funding, that would be what would be needed. Yeah, and if the bond measure passes and the district can use those state funds for any capital construction costs.
And if I may, that's a really good point Leanna made, is as you're thinking about what your next steps, the Awesome program will cover the same capital construction costs as your bond. So you can look at the bond, and I'm sure you have a package of needs and a package of bond, and you can look at that and say, well, if we get the commitment, here's more that we can add, as long as it's covered by the bond language, the Awesome program could pay for it.
Could you share how often is a district eligible to receive an Awesome grant? And if the Awesome grant program is guaranteed through the Constitution?
So it is not guaranteed through the Constitution. The legislature has to renew the actual funds every session. So every odd numbered session. So in 25, we'll be asking them for more funds for this. The legislature, to go a little bit nerdy on everybody, they use their own state general obligation bonds, and that's what funds the Awesome program. So this is not coming out of the general fund. They will sell bonds, and that's how we get our money to pay for the grant programs. So it's not guaranteed by the Constitution, but the Constitution creates the opportunity for this. And I didn't think I answered the first part of that question.
Oh, every 6 years. So if your district receives an Awesome grant, you can apply again after 6 years.
By passing another bond.
Yes.
At that point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Approval of minutes. Are you looking? Sandra have something.
Was it one of the names on there? I looked and I thought.
So there were a couple of things that I wanted to mention, on the minute. It listed, resignations under the wrong heading. So that needs to be fixed.
That's 7.2, right? Sorry.
Yes, so they were listed under contract change / renewals, but those names should have been under resignations.
And I see what
Are we gonna need to say something, or are you
Do I
gonna,
need to spell that out? On
or
there?
is that, we'll have to just. we can
Yeah,
just take care of it.
I would just,
You're
say
just
it
noting,
as-
you're noted.
Yes,
You're
you
noted.
noted that.
Okay.
And also in regards to the breakfast cost, there is no change. So breakfast is $275, not $310. So there was no adjustment needed.
that.
I move that the Durham School District #1 Board of Directors approves the regular session meeting minutes from October 19th, 2023 with minor adjustments.
Second.
We have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, public forum, something I have to read, just bear with me, guys. So, public forum participation, public participation in the board meetings. Statement by members of the public should be brief and concise. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, establish a time limit on discussion or oral presentation by visitors on any topic. Speaker may offer objective criticisms of school operations and programs, but the board will not hear complaints concerning individual school personnel. The chairperson will direct complaints to the appropriate means for the board's consideration and disposition of legitimate complaints involving individuals. At this time, members of the public are invited to participate. We have on the,
Karen has
a
list.
Step one.
you're up, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless remember, we're using our manners and 3 minutes, sir.
All right, I'm gonna make it real quick.
Oh, very good. Even better.
If we want to find out anything, we don't call the state. We get them out here and let me use a 2x4 to get them to talk. So that you can hear the back in the back of the room. I'm sitting at the front and I could hardly hear what they were saying. And I'm gonna say it right out loud. That's not your fault. But it sure as thunder is what is irritating to a lot of people. Now that part I came on to, and I'm gonna bring another thing up. We have a lot of business that people do not understand what really is going on. But we are expected to get up here at this time and talk about the various measures that are happening later on in the board meeting. That is impossible to do because I don't control the meeting, you guys do. And you guys can change anything you want. And once you make a change, what I said is worthless. Now, that is enough of that, and let's get to where we really need. The first thing, I am asking this, but I do not expect an answer tonight. Has anybody sat down with a plumber and asked what it will cost to clean the drains up in the high school building? You've got the boys' dressing room has a bad sewer in it. Why hasn't it been cleaned up in the last 30 years or more? That's not Mrs. responsibility. It's the problem that has been left draw water. We're getting in, you're hollering about the roof on the gym. I know what's wrong with it. I just don't know how to quite fix it. I know where I would go if I was going. There are 4 companies I know of in Salem that could fix that mess. And they are all competent. You've got other leakages there. There's reasons for it. Some of them, if you put a a seismograph out, you're gonna see that along the line, the axis of 99, there is a constant shake. 3 to 5 times a day, it will shake. And when that building shakes, it moves. Tar, when it is cold, has a tendency to fracture. And when it fractures, it leaks water. Now, I cannot do anything. There is nothing I know about that can be done about that. But there are people that tell me there is something that could be done about it. And we just only have to listen to our local radio station.
Okay,
I'm
thank
gonna
you,
stop.
Michael.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
But the other one, the last one I have is, let's do something about the fact that that over half of our sixth graders this fall were not reading at fourth grade.
Anybody out in Tigerland? Right, under reports.
Yes, student council and Prairie is here tonight.
Yeah.
Are you just here? Oh, it's there. I
Oh,
didn't see.
we have
Hi,
couple
Nana.
news.
Sorry.
Very nice.
Hi, y'all.
Hi there.
Hello.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for inviting me today. I'm Prairie. And I'm Gloria. The senior vice principal. And I'm the treasurer. Yeah. And we have just our updates and events that have happened and are going to happen. So, for recent events,
So ours, leadership class, 11 of us attend, including myself, and attended the Seaside Conference at it was like a OAC Fall Leadership Conference on the site, where we got to like meet other leadership members from like all around the state, and I think some people were from Washington or something. And they also like, we all got together and talked about how we can make our leadership stronger and better.
Okay, so that was successful. As you all probably know, our football team did make it to quarterfinals, but we did lose to Oakland last Friday. But overall, I'm really proud of our boys. They made it so far for the first time in like a century. That made 2 years. Yeah, so yeah, I'm really proud of them. So FFA had a little Friendsgiving event yesterday for their monthly meeting. That went well. There's a few events coming up for them, I think, but I'm not sure I remember what they were.
Dorm directors pageant practice have started, and me and Prairie are thrilled to be part of it.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yes, we're very excited. The pageant is gonna be in the middle of March. So, yeah, stay tuned, y'all. It's gonna be great. It'll be great.
You guys have an MC.
Yes, we do have one of them. So we're trying to figure out the other one. So. Upcoming events. So we were going to have a staff versus staff basketball game against the North Marion team again, but I think that's been put on hold due to lack of haven't been able to find a lot of participation and just lack of planning, I guess. And we're starting to plan our high school prom, which it is. We figured out the date, and it is Saturday, April 20th, in 2024. And we are starting to hold monthly student awards assemblies, where all the main teachers will give out awards to their student of the month, which is fun. I think it's good that the students who are doing well see that they're actually being rewarded, and see that they're appreciated, which is good. I think. And we are planning a float for the holiday festival with Christina. And I don't know much about that, but
Inspired that.
we were told that.
Great.
Voluntold.
Yeah, got a lot of candy. For winter sports, we have basketball and wrestling starting this week. So that's practices very started.
There is an opportunity for GHS students to volunteer, work at a Christmas tree farm, over there, well, at the end of this month, I guess, start of next month, and, it'll be volunteer hours, it's local, I think. I think Journalism Club is planning to do one day and take that on, which is exciting. We want to get more pages in our newspaper. Which, yeah, I'm one of the editors, so it's exciting that we get to have more in there. And for the last thing, so today the seniors were able to have their college application day where we, anyone who wished could, get out of class and come to the library and work on applying for colleges, or scholarships or whatever, just continuing their work in that. And tonight is our funding fund night for that, for seniors and their families to figure out more information about funding college and applying and all that stuff. So
Food will also be provided.
yes, and it's going on right now. So they started at 6.
We're
So, yeah.
neglect of it.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's all we have for you today, I think. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. If you guys come back again, would you bring one of your newspapers with you?
Sure.
Yeah, I would
They're great.
Yeah.
They're pretty good.
We actually have
I think they turn out great.
Oh, look at that. Sandra's ahead of
Oh,
me.
there's one. They would just released on Wednesday.
Oh.
Yes,
Do we
have
a coach of basketball coach who's still here?
yeah, we did. We found a coach and an assistant coach.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I think her name is Samantha.
I'm sure they'll talk about it. during
Yeah,
that
they just
day.
had their first practice, like, well, this week, first practice or this week. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, you guys.
What?
Okay. Let's go with Mr. Price.
It was-
First one you saw, huh?
They all are going on.
Yes, we all got a hit, didn't there? That's being hiding quickly.
And.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I guess before we start this, thanking the school board, I know just countless hours of selfless service and sacrifice and just giving back to the community, so thank you so much.
Yeah, we like to pay.
Yeah. Just feel incredibly blessed, I think, to work in a school with just amazing people. Both the little people and the big people, it just is an absolutely amazing place. We've tried so hard to always make it a place where each person belongs. And that's something that we live by, something we strive for. And we were in some training yesterday. Dan Shepard has been consulting with our FLC classroom. We brought him in to work with our entire staff about relationships, expectations. There's 3 things he said that just resonated. I wrote it down word for word. I want to share those 3 things with you with photos from our staff, because I think the staff emulate what he was saying. The first, it is a human need to connect and feel loved. And on that human level, I think that's what we strive to do at Jervis Elementary every single day. Yes, we want to instruct. Yes, the academic piece is really important, but the social emotional learning piece is essential for kids to feel safe, welcome, wanted, loved, seen, heard. And here we have just photos taken today. Ruth Loretta on the left and Raquel Wilson on the right, some of our first grade teachers. And you can just, as you watch them, you can just see this level of connection, just how much they care. And that is across the entire campus. So just absolutely amazing to see that. On the next slide, something else that Dan said, students will not trust us with their best until they know we can handle their worst. And that's true, right? Parents know this, that oftentimes you get the very worst, right? They're so good, so well behaved at school, and at home you deal with all sorts of fits and struggles, because kids need to know that they can trust us no matter what. Sometimes kids push, right, to see if we're going to stick around. And it's especially true for kids who've been through a lot of trauma. They really want to know, are we going to be there through the thick and thin? And I can say for us, the answer is yes. And so here, on On the right, we have Christy Hazelton. On the left is Maddie Cortez, some of our upper grade teachers. And again, these are just teachers who are just here day in and day out. Some of our veteran staff have had, this is their first job and they've never left. They just absolutely love being in Jervis. And so we just are so blessed to have teachers who are there for our students in their worst moments and are there in their greatest successes. And the last thing that he said is that kids need us now more than ever. And that is just so true. Jervis deserves the staff at Jervis Elementary School. I think as a staff, we can be very proud of the staff that's doing their very best to serve our kids. Here we have Michelle Chase on the left, second grade teacher, absolutely phenomenal with some kids who have really, really struggled. They've just been so successful in her space. She has a real gift. On the right, we have Debbie Roberts and Sarah Steele. And here in our FLC classroom, and I don't think you can find a better bunch of angels than that FLC classroom. They're serving some of our most disadvantaged students who otherwise I don't think would be served with such compassion and commitment that the FLC staff does. So it's absolutely inspiring. Want to walk through some other things that have been going on. Woodburn Kiwanis Club came in to donate a whole bunch of books, brand new books, and it was awesome to see the kids, how excited they were. I went into the classrooms before to walk them on over and told them there's some grandmas here. And they're like, my grandma, there's some grandparents here, and just beyond excited to get these books and to say thank you. And do I get to keep them? Yes, they're yours. In addition to that, we have an awesome partnership with OHSU. They bring their nurses in for health screenings, and it's so much more than just heights and measures. It's all these different activities, very hands-on and engaging to help kids just learn about just healthy living and well-being. But just the relationships are awesome. And Courtney Utter, our school nurse, is phenomenal. And she came through that very program. And so it just really, I think, creates this narrative for these nursing students that communities like ours are some of the best places to work. And a big shout out to the high school FFA. So they've been hosting these pumpkin patches, and our kids tromp on over there, and they've got goats for petting and activities inside. And then they get to pick a pumpkin. The only rule is you have to carry it back. And it's fun to watch. They struggle and try to get those pumpkins back. But I'm just so grateful for the high school doing this. I don't know if they realize just the level of excitement that this brings for our kids. And just connecting that K-12 experience has been absolutely phenomenal. In addition to the pumpkin patch, also, yes, we have, recently we had a spirit day, character day, and the spirit days are tons of fun. Tomorrow's plushy day. We're gonna have all sorts of squishmallows and stuffies in the school. And kids kept asking me, can I bring it? You get one. Just one. It's like this big, just one. So it'll be fun to see what they bring. But recently we had a character day, and just the excitement of the kids, just tremendous. And I love the Chipmunks on the right. That's our new kinder team. Just super fun to watch. Madeline McFowler, Brenda Ballinger, Nicole Vaughn. Just really appreciate the staff, willing to be silly, willing to have fun with our students. Next, so Aguilas de Oro came down, and they put on a show beyond anything that we expected. We thought they would come and dance. They decored the whole gym and brought in all the light and music. It was fantastic. And our communities should be so proud of them and all the work that goes into it. It was absolutely delightful. So we're just so grateful for that. That was on Dia de los Muertos. And just again, talking about the importance of our heritage, our families, our stories, because what an awesome celebration for them to come share with us. And again, really appreciate the high school kids coming down and sharing that experience with us. We are, today was the last day of session 1, and we're immediately rolling into session 2, but just a whole host of after school clubs. And I think it's one of the most amazing things we can offer through these Latinx success grants is opportunities our kids otherwise wouldn't have. When else would they be able to take violin lessons or learn how to quilt, learn how to code or do robotics? It's absolutely amazing for them to do it. And just, I think one thing that I really appreciate, it's also about the relationships. What staff are able to do to connect with kids after school, doing these really amazing enrichment activities is really special. And so it's just a really neat opportunity that our staff have with these students. And just wanted to just highlight a few photos from these clubs next. So we have our digital photography club, and it has been a hoot to see them taking thousands of photos. And I don't envy anybody who has to edit those. But we are gonna be printing off some of their greatest work and sending those home with them. They're gonna be super proud of that work. The Violence Club, we're walking around today in the hallways performing for various groups and just seeing just the level of pride and confidence to see these kids performing is pretty awesome. Next. Art club, we had 3 sections of art club. It just, every kid wants to stay and do art. And these are some of the awesomest projects. And so appreciate the staff doing it, but we just huge art club. And then Minecraft Science was one of our new additions. And it has been a huge hit. Massive hit, yes. And science, it's been fun. That's been a really neat offering we've been able to add. And then some of the other clubs, we could offer soccer all year round, but I have to convince the kids that there's other sports too, right? So they're so excited to start off with soccer. And then again, our sewing, sewing club, I should say. This is retired Winnell Detweiler who came back because again, she just was so touched to have done the club last year. Loved seeing the students coming in. And it's just a fun, eclectic group of kids in there and all these boys sewing. And it's been really fun to watch. Next. And some of the other really fun things have been these family nights. We might have mentioned before the literacy night was just a really great event. And we had our bilingual book vendor and book giveaways and creating bookmarks and puppets and books and a readathon and popcorn everywhere. It was a great fun. And then just recently, we had a bingo night that we really enjoyed. And so we had some families donating some of the prizes. Christina, thank you. And we bought a bunch and gathered a bunch and just had an absolutely awesome time playing bingo. The last slide I'll share is some good life lessons that we shared with our students at the beginning of bingo. What is sportsmanship? I put this in as kid-friendly terms as I could think of, right? It's about having a positive attitude. It's about following the rules of the game and being happy for those who win, right? We talked a lot about that. And then here's a big life lesson. We don't win every game we play. And so I'm just so grateful for all these experiences that we can create for our kids. It's not just about having fun. It's about building confidence, kind of learning who they are, really getting a sense of how life works, how to build good relationships with their peers, with their teachers, and just feel very blessed for the stuff that we're able to do. And it wouldn't be possible at all without so many people at every level. Teachers, instructional assistants, office staff, custodians, counselors, everyone in the kitchen, everyone driving buses, the school board, district leadership. It's an army of people behind this group of kids. But these kids deserve our very best. So we're just doing our darndest to do that for them. So,
Thank you.
I just have to say thank you for your students and every building students that did the walkthroughs. They did an amazing job.
100% on that.
Yes, they were awesome.
the message was, our school is amazing, but the facility stinks, literally. So, but we love our school. We absolutely love our school. Parts of the building could use a little.
Thank you.
Okay, Tony?
Tried to run
Oh, there you are.
I have to run by this.
Hi, Tony.
Mine's gonna be short and sweet. It's like one slide.
It's close. 4 days. I know, you can all go home.
So constant interruptions. So I just really focused just on the last month. One of the big things we did, and we've done this for, I've lost track of time, the last 5 years, is No One Eats Alone. It's a national program that is all over the United States for middle and high school. It basically, the basic part is no one eats alone, but it really has to do with anti-bullying and social isolation. Everything starts with lunch. And you walk into that lunchroom and you see those kids that are eating alone. And those are the kids oftentimes that are bullied. Those are the kids that are struggling. Those are the kids that don't have the friends. And so this is led by leadership. Lucas Hill does a really good job with this. And so there was just a few pictures taken of the leadership kids. So it is during lunchtime, and then we take the extra half an hour, which is our homeroom after that. So it's about an hour long. The students come over, and as they're coming over from the high school cafeteria to the middle school, they are randomly, they're given a card, a little piece of paper with the classroom on it. So these are mixed 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. They may or may not be with their friends. If they change the name, they might be with their friend. And they go to the classroom, they have lunch, and then the leadership students who are 7th and 8th graders then have like warm-up activities, like what if, which one would you choose? Would you rather eat a bug or eat a worm? To just kind of get kids talking to each other that they don't normally talk to, and maybe find out that, wow, we have things in common and I didn't know you liked to do this. They played games like Heads Up, 7-Up. And of course, we use bribery, we use candy and snacks to have them participate. It went really well. And the best part was the leaderships. Those kids really shined in this. Kids that you didn't expect to step forward really did. There was one classroom, they had 2 to 3, I believe, leadership students in there. And the one classroom I specifically remember hearing about, okay, this student is probably going to be your leader. That student wasn't there that day. So I love when that happens, because 2 quiet kids who normally kind of set back because they know this person's going to do it, they had to step up and they did an amazing job. So kind of have to push them a little sometimes, but yeah, it was very cool. Outdoor school happened. We do it in the fall rather than the spring. I love this picture.
This is a happy plan right there.
I love this picture. So our outdoor school this year, and which we have done for the last few years, is it's 3 days long. So this happened to be a half a day. They shortened it to 2.5 days this year because they wanted to get more people into the camp, more money for the camp. So it was the half a day Wednesday. They left at noon and they came home at 5. And then it was then full Thursday and full Friday. They left at 8 in the morning and got back at 5 in the evening. They did not spend the night. The very first day, which was lucky, it was just a half a day. It was pouring rain and cold. So that's where this picture was taken. But the next day, it was beginning to be more fun. The rain stopped. It was still kind of damp and cold out. This is the group, that's the 6th graders. We had all but I believe 3 6th graders that went. So really, really good attendance. And just them being 6th graders and having fun and cheesing up for the camera. Some of the activities that they did, archery, one of the more popular ones. You can't see, but right on the edge, there's a bale of hay, and there is a target on that they are shooting towards. And what they did, they rotated and they went through all the different activities. So every student got to do archery. They just kind of rotated through. On the right, this is an obstacle course. It was closer to the ground, so if they just stepped down, it was probably a foot or so that they stepped down. And there's another picture coming up. And then the one in the bottom right corner is they made, I can't remember what these bracelets are called. They're like the safety bracelets that if you were out in the wilderness and you needed a rope for that, you could take these apart and use them. It's a special way of braiding them. And I really like it because it gives them something also to take home. So on the left, this is something new that we did this year. We haven't done this in the past. This was kind of like a s'mores thing that they were making. It was like I think actually more like a puff pastry thing that they were doing. I believe they started doing it outside and it was sprinkly and wet. And so unfortunately, this group kind of got a little damp. The next group, they went inside and there was a fireplace inside that they used. And that's another picture, which I thought was really cool. It's showing them going across the obstacle course and not trying to fall. There is an email from Amanda Braswell that has a small video that I tried to put on here. Benya tried to help me. We were not successful. So it was suggested that maybe we could go to the email. Amanda, who was one of our 6th grade teachers. I'll just ramble here for a minute. One of our 6th grade teachers took a video of the it's the cable. I just lost it. That goes across the zip line. Thank you very much. Of the zip line. I didn't know which one she was gonna send me because she had done a few of them, including Mr. Hill screaming as he went across the zip line. But it's
Okay.
a fun video if this was the trouble we were having. And trying to get it, look.
No, they moved that to the other side.
Oh, there we are, right there, there it is. Oh, the pressure.
Good job.
It's water. Oh my gosh, and they called at the same time. What? It should, yeah.
It's a little slow.
There it goes, there it goes. All right. They're up on a platform, they take a path to get up on the platform.
Oh,
and
wow.
There it goes. It kind of jerks at the end.
Is that you?
No, that's not me. That's not me. They tried to get me on it. I did go out for a couple hours, Ms. Aloha and I went out. You can kind of see about how far off the ground. And then that stairwell right there pushes forward and then they catch them and they climb down the stairs to get down. So, and again, you don't have to go. If kids didn't feel comfortable going, they didn't have to. We did have a couple that climbed up there, put the helmet on, got strapped in, and was like, no, I don't think so, and went back down. But I think most of the students did do it. And a couple staff members do it, not me. So, very fun. We are talking about next year, Ms. Braswell and I are already talking. We would like to go back to overnight outdoor school. We've done overnight years ago. And I would like to do overnight again. I bet a lot of you did outdoor school. I remember when I did outdoor school, I need to call Mr. Amon. I'm looking back at him and I have yet to do it. Because if we did overnight, we would ask that juniors and seniors would be coming in and being counselors. So that could be part of their volunteer time. So we are looking into it. There are lots of overnight different camps. One in particular that I love on the coast. The reason I'm kind of iffy about that one is I want everybody to be able to go. And I know some parents might be like, overnight. So I think we're gonna try to find a place that's within maybe an hour of here that's an overnight. So that way, if some parents are uncomfortable with the overnight, okay, it's gonna be up to you then, because we're not gonna drive back and forth. Then you're gonna drive Johnny over there, drop him off, and then come back and pick him up for those 3 or 4 days that we're gonna be doing it. So that's the plan. We're gonna look into it and see if that's feasible. And if there's a place around that's within an hour that we like, that we can do. So if you guys know of any outdoor school places that are within an hour that you would recommend, please let me know so that we can look into it for next year. We're gonna try to stick to the fall. We do like having it in the fall. It's a real bonding experience, rather than waiting in the spring. And then also with juniors and seniors, it's hard to get them in the spring because they're getting ready for college and finals and yada, yada. So we probably have better luck having juniors and seniors volunteer in the fall.
Tony, do you want to share how we pay for outdoor school?
So outdoor school is through the state. There was, I don't know if you guys remember this or not, a few years ago, there was a vote that came, us voters voted whether we wanted the state of Oregon to have the outdoor school in schools, because some schools, like rich schools could afford it and struggling schools couldn't, and rich parents could afford it and struggling parents couldn't. And that's not equitable. That's not fair. We want to have it open for everybody. So the state of Oregon did put it out on the ballot and it did pass. So it is paid for by the state of Oregon. I don't know the specific grant or any government agency, but it is Jervis, yay, does not pay a dime. We even get reimbursed. I don't think it's all of it, but most of it, even for the buses. So everything is paid for. Well worth it. It's very, very fun. It's a great experience that a lot of these kids will never do stuff like this again.
Hope we can get it overnight for them, I guess.
Yeah, I think it would be really, really fun. I think the first year we might have a few families going, oh, no. But the next year, when they hear everything about it and the kids talking, I think we'll have pretty much everybody going and their kids getting back safe. We didn't lose anybody.
Just like with the cell phone thing. Pretty well, yes.
It is doing well. It is.
Very good.
I did have a question on your report. Your referral number, was that pretty high?
It
Was
was,
that,
it seemed really busy, I'll tell you that.
okay, because 23 majors seemed kind of high.
Yeah, we had, I'm trying to think back, we had a couple group things.
Hmm.
So we had like 5 referrals on because of one thing, because there were 6 kids that got together and had an activity that was not appropriate. So there was 6 referrals right there.
Got it.
So, that was, yes, that was a big part of it.
They were doing the buddy system.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
Yeah, it was a busy month,
Yeah.
but it seems to kind of calm down now a little bit. So I think they were kind of seeing what can we get away with and, oh, okay, we can't get away with that. So,
Perfect, thank you.
I know. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, high school.
I feel like my presentation's longer than it normally is. And my voice keeps going out. So I might rush through a few of these. So yeah, board presentation for today. That was our staff picture. Back real quick, we took a group staff picture. First time we've ever done that since I've been there, which was kind of nice. We all dressed in Jervis gear and a picture at the gym, which was really cool. And we were only missing 1 staff member that day,
Wow.
which is nice. This is Doug. Hey, Doug. Doug is the new vice principal and athletic director. It's been a pleasure having him. We went bowling for the staff members who could go bowling last Thursday. And Doug joined us. He's in the back with the arrow pointed at his head. But Doug has been here for what, a week and a half?
Yeah, like 11 days.
Wow.
Thank you.
It's been a fantastic. I mean, I feel like he's been there for a year.
Good to hear.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to say that.
All right, so like I said, I'm gonna rush through some of this, just some professional development that teachers have been working on. Professional development, I feel like has really ramped up this school year. Not just for Jervis High School, but for everyone. Some of the things I put in bold there, Danielson framework is the new teacher framework for evaluations that we're focusing on. We're making a huge push on student engagement. And what does that look like in a PE class versus a Woods class versus an English class versus a math class, you know, it looks different. But I think at the high school level, one thing that we're working on the most is trying to get high school kids, teenagers, engaged in class. Oregon Connections is something we kind of started doing last year. It's I want to call it a program where students can Zoom in with somebody in a certain profession. Either a live Zoom meeting that you can schedule ahead of time with that person, or there's preloaded videos that students can watch. So I want to go become a carpenter. I want to go do this. I want to go do that. I want to be a chef. So we had a training actually the other day, which was the first training we had this school year with Oregon Connections. But it's also something that teachers did last year as well. So it's a tool that a lot of the high school teachers are using. And we had an artificial intelligence training from Sarah Orschel, our art teacher, who went to a training and taught our staff on some of the tools and tricks that teachers can use for artificial intelligence in their classrooms to help them, but also what our students are also using to try to manipulate artificial intelligence. So anyway, just a few things. I am not going to read all that. No. But every month I am asking teachers to share what are students learning in your class before I come and do the presentation. And these teachers got back to me and I just highlighted some things. I mean, you look at the top, we got science, biomoleculars, okay. Periodic table of elements, city planning and zoning, history, Roman Empire and the rise of Christianity. I'm not going to read it all again, but a very, very interesting, not just to look at, but also, I mean, when I receive those emails, I'm like, wow, there's a lot going on out there. And I've always wanted to shadow a student for a day and see how much knowledge is being thrown at them.
Follow Alex Duran.
Very
I have sticky notes on my fridge about those.
Yeah, yeah. But not only to really realize all the great things that our teachers are doing, not just at the high school, but at all the buildings. But also, at least in my opinion, as a principal, how much are we throwing at them to where it's just too much? And so, anyway, those are some things that are happening in the classroom. We had two really, really awesome assemblies within the last couple weeks. The first one was on November 7th. We had a Korean War veteran come in. Some of you might remember we used to do Living History Day way back in the day, where we had tons of veterans coming in. Ever since COVID, that has gone away. But Ken Buckles, who is the gentleman who runs this program, he tried to bring in a Holocaust survivor, but that individual ended up getting sick, and so they couldn't come in. But he did find this gentleman whose name is William Chisholm. And he came in and did an assembly. That's the picture on the left there. That's Ken Buckles.
Not this guy.
good.
It looks really good for being a Korean War.
Yeah,
veteran.
no, yeah, yeah.
You know, his face care.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna have what that guy's have. No, William Chisholm's on the back end of that, but Ken runs the assemblies for the most part. And he brought a box of more Tootsie Rolls than you can eat in an entire year. And there's some in the back if you want to grab some on your way out, but, do you want to read the Tootsie Rolls story? Yeah.
So the guy in the blue, actually, this is for the second high school he's ever shared this story with. And it goes like this. On the 7th of December, 1950, Pearl Harbor Day, just north of Coterie, a group of Marines were waiting for the United States Air Force to drop off ammunition and other supplies. The Air Force made a mistake in the requisition and they dropped Tootsie Rolls instead of ammunition. You can imagine how angry the Marines were when they discovered Tootsie Rolls. However, all was not lost. The Marines soon learned they could hold Tootsie Rolls close to their body or in their mouth, and the Tootsie Rolls would thaw or melt enough for them to be eaten. This was all about all the food they had to eat for the next few days because all the other rations of water were frozen for the sub-zero temperatures. Tootsie Rolls were code name for the 60mm mortar shells, but no one bothered to inform the Air Force. I suspect most of the Marines still have a special reverence to Tootsie Rolls. Tootsie Rolls probably helped save the lives of some of those Marines. One thing they all remember, our God still works in mysterious ways. Great way to.
I have to say, my son came home and told the story. They were very impressed with them.
Yeah. And it was great. And I think more and more going forward, just my opinion, but I think our younger generations just kind of lose that, I don't want to say respect, but just that understanding of a lot of our war veterans. So it's great to have that assembly. I thought it went really well. And there were Tootsie Rolls all over the school. And then on November 14th, that's a assembly that Creighton put together. It was a migrant Hispanic inspirational speaker. I was not able to attend that one, but I heard it went really well. And we had good reports from the students. College and career, I'll always talk about this. I put underneath that label at the top, check out the website. You can find it on the Jervis High School website. There's a college and career page. But this is, that's everything that's happened in just 2 months. And so what you're looking at, those are either people who have come into our building to host something for students about a college or a career, but also field trips we've had. It's more than we've ever had. It's crazy how much stuff is happening outside of the classroom at the high school right now. So kudos to Andrea Oropez and Sophie Ferreira, which is the Gear Up grant that we received last year. We're using a lot of that money for these kind of things.
We got something going on the week that everybody's out, going to a campus tour.
Yep.
So
I'll be honest with you, Henry, I don't even know what's coming up right now. I'm like, oh, we gotta handle.
Cause
Yeah.
counselors that take care of it.
Yeah.
That's very
No,
good.
it's a lot. It's like,
Nice.
what Prairie and Gloria were talking about. There's something going on right now.
Yes, yeah,
And so, yeah, it's constantly something happening with college. and
that's
career.
great.
This is a video. I don't know if we're gonna have It should have been some- So before you start this, I'll just talk real quickly. This is a really, there's two really brief videos, and I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time. Find Your Grind is the new college inventory. College career inventory program that we purchased through Europe Funds again. So this is just a quick little video.
We just click it.
Yep. I think so. Doesn't have to print. But it's very attractive to high school kids. Middle school is also using it. But it's not just a career inventory tool, it's also what is your personality, what are your interests, and that kind of thing. We're only 3 lessons in, so the kids are really just starting. But we're really hoping to push forward with it.
Do they do that like an advisory?
It's advisory. Yeah, it's an advisory once a week.
So everybody or volunteer, everybody goes through it.
Same for the middle
Great.
school. All 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are doing it once a week in homeroom.
That's awesome.
And I pulled some data from this. The most popular lifestyle choice was entertainer. And the most popular career is a professional soccer player. But it's only 76% of the students at Jervis High School are still on the working things out part of the program. But we're hoping to see where this goes, but it's cool.
So this is something that they're gonna do every year?
Yeah,
Is
so
a
this is,
program?
it's getting purchased out of Gear Up funds. So yeah, I mean, our hope is, we've had like three different career inventory programs we've used in the last 5 years. I've been at Jervis High School. So yes, the goal is that we find something that the students like, that they're attracted to, that really puts them on a pathway. If we can afford this for the next 5, 6, 7 years, it continues. I mean, and they can keep going in and tweaking and figuring out who. I mean, it's really about figuring out who you are as an individual and what career path fits.
Yeah.
I need to take the course.
Does it store the data?
Yes.
So like you could go back and
Yes.
like, this is how many kids actually went into that field.
It's very I mean, that's the page that I get to look at for Jervis High School Insights, but the advisory teachers have their insight page and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking like 6th grade to 12th grade, like
Mhm.
if they're,
That's the plan.
that's.
Tony and I are hoping that's the plan.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
But it's also got, I mean, it's got a whole bunch of celebrities too. I mean, it's like you have Kobe Bryant videos, you have Tony Hawk video. I mean, like, so it's a lot of cool things for kids. Yeah, I put this slide up there. So attendance and student struggles. So we're doing, we're doing Monday grade checks every single week. So every week, we're asking advisory teachers to check students' grades, every single week, so they can have conversations. Teachers are being put in PLCs to review student progress, so 9th grade team, 10th grade team, 11th grade team, 12th grade team. And actually, come in as a group and support that grade level. We still have that Blazer trip coming up on February 15th. Middle school's doing that as well. It's attendance, behavior and grades. If you want to go to the Blazer game, you got to keep those up. Doug's really working on athletic eligibility.
Yeah, that's just a huge thing for me. I think the expectations need to rise and be held accountable. So I've talked to my, I heard you ask about a coach. Yes, we have coaches for basketball working on assistants right now, but that's my big push with them. We're checking attendance, we're checking the grades, because you're a student first, athlete second, and you represent the whole body. So I think that's super important from an athletic standpoint. It's a luxury to get to play. It's a slow roll, but the students will find out my personality, that I love them and want to support them, but they're also going to be held accountable. Along the way. So
We're doing monthly student of the month. Tomorrow will be our second assembly for student of the month. There's no criteria. We just ask every teacher to pick a kid. It could just be being a good person, good attendance, whatever it is. And they get a $5 gift card every month and a certificate, and we recognize them in the assembly at the end of every single month this year. And then our attendance team is assembled as of this week. And so we're really attendance is our biggest struggle right now. And so, Doug, Melissa, Julie, myself, a lot of us were trying to get in front of those kids. In fact, Doug and I pulled in about 40 bodies into the front office this morning, getting late to school, and just had a conversation. That's how we spent our morning today. So yeah, trying to get in front of that for sure. This is another video. You don't have to play it.
I can do it.
Okay.
I believe in you.
This is the second thing in advisory that we've started. So the other one's a career inventory. This is Character Strong, and it's making students get out of their seat and talk to each other. So it's kind of a culture building thing that we've started this year. I had a teacher tell me today, because again, this is brand new and very uncomfortable for a lot of people. But I had a teacher come up to me today and say, I put them in groups today and they just had to ask each other 3 questions and they did it. And it went from dead quiet to everyone talking. I'm just trying to make this more difficult on Dandy as I.
So appreciate you guys. Fabulous.
So 2 really cool things. But also very brand new, so we're in the beginning stages of this exploration on trying to get kids to figure out themselves and also interact with each other. I'm over on the right. So, my last slide. And I'll always share some challenges and some successes we've had. I'll start with the challenges. Just in general, the bond is obviously the biggest thing, for the district this year. We're really trying to revamp leadership. We have a really good group of kids in leadership this year, but trying to just make that just more of the flow of Jervis High School, having the kids take over those kind of responsibilities. Attendance, which I already talked about, student engagement, I already talked about, is a huge push for us right now. I'll always talk about the freshman slump. It's hard to get freshmen to need to be on track and want to be on track, transitioning from middle school and high school. I'm sure those are conversations Tony and I will have regularly. Hiring in general has been a struggle this year a little bit for us. And then we are starting a GED testing center, but like 2 or 3 of those things in the challenges column, I would move over to the successes column right now. Because we're already got the GED thing pretty much figured out. Thanks to our new alt teacher, and hiring, we're pretty good right now, honestly. So when I created that slide, a couple of those things have already been dealt with. Successes, Doug is amazing. It really has been fantastic having him. And so really looking forward to this partnership and Doug being a part of our community. After school, another success, we have about 14 to 17 students on average attending after school, and that's not for clubs, that's for after school homework help. Or 8th period is what we're calling one of our after school deals. So those are students failing classes that are staying after school to get it taken care of. Obviously athletics, football, cross country, had a fantastic season.
Yeah, I mean, cross country was academic all state. They had a 3.51 GPA average, 7th in the entire state for 1 and 2A. So that's a round of applause. And I got to David Castle and give him a pat on the back for that. So something to be really proud of.
The program's been going on now 2 years on the run. I believe so. I know, Doug. I know that. No trick. Yeah.
No, David Castle came in and was just a gun-ho track guy and started the cross-country program last year.
No,
He's been fantastic.
He's at the high school office almost every day. Yeah,
that's great.
even when it's not. Yeah. season.
Yeah, those kids have blossomed.
It's great, yeah. Student behavior, I'll be honest, we had a couple, pretty severe things happen in September, but I'm not gonna jinx it. But students have been really, really good in general. The gym at lunch was pretty chaotic last year. And people have told me, they're like, there's a calmness, like in general, every day in the high school right now. And I don't know, I didn't do that, it just happened. We have a really fantastic group of seniors this year. PAWS program, can't say enough about Benjamin Paw, who's taken over that program. He's doing everything that we ask him to do. And doing it the right way for alternative education and for those kids. Staff have been stepping it up like crazy. To help with absolutely anything we asked them to do this year, which has been very great. And the general morale of the school is good, in my opinion. And those are some pictures.
So just a quick question on that student behavior. Is our resource officer dealing with those situations?
He's there every single day at lunch. Every single day. Officer Camacho has been, all hands on deck every single time we've needed them.
I see him at the football game.
Yeah.
So he seems like he's really.
And even at the football games, I've asked for there to be a couple officers there, and it's never been an issue.
Great, thank you.
Curious about your challenge column and the bond.
Yeah.
Just curious, like, what is the high school student morale feelings talk about the bond?
They don't tell me,
Yeah.
so I don't hear it. That's a really good question. I would say, I mean, if I had to throw out a survey to the student body asking whatever questions I would need to ask about the bond, I mean, students want the bond to pass. They do, 100%. They want to work or go to school in a nice place. I think that's probably one of the bigger issues we have, just like day-to-day litter in the hallway and things like that, you know what I mean? Students not throwing their lunch away at lunch. I think part of it is because they just kind of feel like it's okay to maybe treat their school like that at times. We get the biggest issues in the bathroom with things like that, but I don't want to answer your question without answering it truthfully, but
Yeah, I just know, like,
Yeah.
there's so much talk about the bond, and now there's been talk about if.
I think they talk to each
what
other
may
more than
happen, and-
they talk to me.
Yeah,
But I would love to throw out some kind of survey, but I would want to ask them a very specific questions.
So we have the listening session scheduled for the week after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit in my bond update, but at all three buildings, we're having focus groups of kids, and we'll start out with kind of three generalized questions. But it's just designed to kind of get them to start talking, because we know once they start talking, they're
Yeah.
not gonna stop. And then we'll share out at the December board meeting what they had to say.
We have 16 students scheduled for that range from FFA kids to athletes to, you know, whatever. We tried to pinpoint every little demographic of our school that we could, so.
Yeah, I was hoping the student body would get involved and, you know, kind of lead that.
They know about it and they're supportive. I mean, why would they not be?
Just one quick comment. I really liked the slide that showed us what's going on in the curriculum too, like what they were reading and that kind of stuff from the teachers. I would love to see that continue if possible. I know it's a lot of work and stuff like that, but that gives people a really good indicator of what they are learning
Yeah.
at the base level. Because we could talk about, you know, culture and making the kids feel safe and that whole thing too, but that we do need to figure out exactly.
What are
you
they
know.
learning? Yeah.
So thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Andy.
welcome then.
Thank you. Yes, welcome.
Welcome
Happy to be here. Yeah, great.
I'm gonna start, I gave you an ending 2022-23 ending fund balances sheet on here. Right up there in the corner, a separate sheet that I put on.
Oh, this.
I just wanted to kind of go over that briefly. As you can see, the 100 general fund was ended higher than anticipated. And so we budgeted in 23-24 for a rolled in balance of about 1.9 million. And it ended up being 0.187 million that we were able to roll in, which is about 287,000 more. And I feel like that cushion is going to be very important to have, especially since, you know, we've had some other staffing needs that have arisen. And one of those is the emotional growth room at the elementary school. So, you know, I'm grateful that we had that extra come in because we are definitely going to need it. And then the 101 charter school fund, you can see that it's up to 1.167 million coming in there. And I wanted to point out the fund 251 SIA student investment grant. Normally on these grants, we don't see any rollover. We spend and receive and it's all in a zero balance. But with the SIA grant, for the last 2 years, they've asked us to claim all of it and then just spend it by September of the following year. So that happened again. So we claimed it all, and that's why we're rolling over a positive balance. And then we had to have it all spent by September, which we did.
And then 265, we heard Andrew talk about the Gear Up grant. And that grant, you see that's the only one in the negative. And that's because they kind of, it's a federal grant and it actually the first year we get 100,000, it's 7 years long. And, you know, so we have some startup, but they gave us the full allocation of this 100,000, but we didn't even start it until March around there. So they do their reporting in a whole different cycle than any other grant that we have. And so their final period of time, their final quarter is June 1st to August 30th. And so what you see are June expenditures in there, the negative 36,000. And then we don't get paid, you know, from it until, you know, well into this year, because then we have July and August expenditures become part of it. And I know that Sophia worked very hard at spending those grant funds, and I think we came really close to spending most of that 100,000. And it was tough because, you know, we started so late and we had that big hunk of funds for it. So, and then the last one on this sheet that I want to point to is food services. So, you know, food service ended with a balance of 115,000, which on the surface seems good, but due to COVID issues in 2021, our ending fund balance was 442,000. And then in 21-22, the ending fund balance was 266,000. And so now we're at 115 for 20. So you kind of see the way that is going.
Yeah.
And you know, the COVID is, you know, and the way that we did food service, we gained a huge, you know, amount of revenue from that. And that's why 2021 was so high. But it's quickly being eaten up by the high costs that we're seeing. You know, they're having to deal with the food service. You know, the shortages for her means she's got to run to some store that charges much more than our normal places of getting things and pay quite a bit more for it. So I kind of am anticipating that fund at the end of 23-24 may not be in a positive status, and we'll have to move some of the general fund over to cover that. So then that's it. I don't know if you have any questions on those ending fund balances. One other thing I'm going to point out is on page 37, I gave you the first projection of where the ending fund balance for general fund without the charters project just through our computer program that does these projections based on past, and now they see our rolled in balances, so they can say that last year we ended with 2.187 million, but they are anticipating that we will end this year with 502,000, which is a huge difference. So we, you know, I want to add to that this budget that they're basing things off of and the amount we're getting from the state school fund is based on our initial estimate to the state of 852 students. We're currently at 875 students, and we have revised our estimate to the state, but that won't start being reflected in our funding until around December, January, right there. So we will have more that would add to our end of the year total, but I feel like it's just this is going to be a year where we really have to watch everything that we're doing and be very careful. So I shared with administrators, well, everybody at the last meeting, that we would probably be looking at spending or freezing all non-essential spending right after the first year. Just to be prudent. Yeah. Dusty asked me if he was frozen already, so.
Yes.
Not yet.
Yes, yes, put it now.
Anyway, that's all I have. Are there any questions?
I have a quick question, but it's probably not, it might be something you can answer. The food. So, I mean, is that like just a small little hiccup that we've hit, or is this gonna be an ongoing thing where food's not available and she's gonna have to be going to all these places, so the price and that is going to be increasing for us?
That would be, I really would have a hard time
saying. I think she might have a better idea. I know
Yeah.
she made some comments about the milk thing in her report.
Yeah.
About that being, you know, an issue. So I feel like hopefully that because this is not just happening to us, that there might be some adjustments, but
Yeah, and are they like compensating for not they're not?
not yet. So hopefully we can always, all we can do is hope maybe, you know, it becomes something where the state kicks in something a little more for food service. They don't give us very much at all. Food service right now is just really pretty minuscule compared to what the federal program gives us. So,
I did have one question for you, which is under the budget summary.
okay,
I was just trying to figure out exactly why year to date under others was, you have the budget's 4.5 million, 6, right? Range year to date is at 5.2, a difference of like 600, over 600,000.
Page are you guys on?
Why is that?
can you
Share what page you're on?
Yeah, that's on page,
Of the packet.
well, that didn't have the number on it.
Doesn't have a
It's
number, but-
32, so
32,
it's
yeah.
31.
Because
it doesn't have a number on it.
I have to go look.
I'm gonna have to look this up on it, but I will say that this is income.
And that's why I was like, it's so, why though?
I know,
Okay.
Yeah, so let me look into that one. It could just be a category
That got moved around.
that, well, that everything is already spent or not spent but received. and done. So I will find out for you and get back to you on exactly what it is.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering about that. I'm like, why is that all of a sudden? I mean, just
Yeah.
like. So.
And it could be part of what they're putting into that other as well. So I will find out.
Okay, thank you.
What's rolled into that. This is all funds in this one too, so.
Right, anything else? So most of my board report is covered in both action items and discussion items. I wanted to share that Andrew brought up the Danielson framework and doing a lot of professional development with teachers on that piece. We had Jory Ellis come in and lead our administrators on observation and walkthroughs. And so the administrators went to each of their other buildings. So high school, middle school went to elementary school. We looked at observed teachers, we did it at all 3 buildings. And then we had the opportunity to have conversations about what we saw, what level of performance is that for teachers. And so we're continuing to calibrate ourselves and dive into what's it look like to have good student engagement. So I'm happy with that process, and they're learning a lot. So that is going to be beneficial. And the rest of it I will cover in the other part of the agenda. Yeah.
Just real quick on the technology report, the environmental sensor.
Yeah.
IA stuff, is this really gonna? I mean, I know we can't have certain things in the bathrooms, but with this, we'll be able to detect vaping and all that kind of.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Yes, we can detect vaping. It also monitors level of noise. So if there's like a possible fight starting or kids trying to vandalize something, it will provide an alert. And then it also timestamps when that alert happens. So if you didn't actually get it right then, maybe you
Right.
then you can go back and we can look at the cameras in the hallway to
Which is,
determine who it
right,
was.
exactly.
And that, remember, that is coming from the lawsuit settlement.
That's what I was.
Yeah,
gonna ask
exactly.
You to
That's
please
what-
share that.
Yep.
Yep.
That is not.
It is
Yeah.
not general, it is coming from the lawsuit
Lawsuit
settlement. that
where
we
we-
participated
Yeah,
in.
it's cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Just, you know, trying to take over the world. All right, where we at? Board focus.
So I know that you were meeting with Representative Quinn. Did you have an opportunity to talk to her? after?
Yes, I did. So I, last Thursday, I was at her educational forum community meeting in Woodburn. After that meeting, I had a chance to talk to her along with her press people and managers. And that's how she agreed to be part of the panel that you're now going to have on December 11th. with the farmers and business people, where she's going to be part of that panel at that presentation and talk about at the state level, what they can and can't fund for capital improvement projects and how she's tried to help the district and, share, why at the state level, the state perspective is it's the local community's responsibility to fund these facility improvements. So she's aware, she's doing what she can. I also just got another application from her office for a new capital project ask. So you'll recall maybe that in the last session, she had helped us apply for the $2 million grant to fix the high school roof. But then they had the walkout and none of that got funded. And so there's another opportunity to ask. They dedicated less money to that this time. And so the award wouldn't pay for the whole high school roof, but maybe it would pay for a portion of it. And we should know maybe by mid-February. And so that might guide your decision in if you decide to go for a bond, how much you're asking for. So she's been very helpful.
That's good.
Thank
Yeah.
you. So, I guess my question is, after you already had this conversation with her, do you feel like we should still go ahead and send a letter?
I don't think it's necessary. Yeah, I think
either.
that
I just
she's-
wanted to make
yeah.
sure we connected with her and that she was aware of what's going on.
They are very aware. They're aware of the possible consolidation closure conversation that's happening as well.
Thank you. Voter registration drive. Can you give us some context?
Yes, so we know that the members of the PAC have started doing voter registration as they have different events. We are going to work on at each home basketball game or wrestling match. Anytime there's kind of a bingo night, the elementary school nights, where we have a table that has actual paper copies of voter registration cards and a Chromebook set up where people can check to see if they're actually registered. And you can even register online. And so we'll do that, starting with these winter sports activities. You can register up until the end of April for the May election. So that would that gives us a lot of time to work on that.
Okay, great.
That's great.
Are we working in conjunction with the community progress team for the winter festival? Will it be here? Like
The
for the I can't
parade or
winter
the
carnival
festival,
or
the
something?
carnival, yes,
Carnival, thank you.
Creighton is leading at that committee,
Okay,
and there'll be a table there as well.
thank you. That's what I want to make sure. Okay. Okay. We're on to consent.
Yes, you have a new consent agenda on at your seat.
Guys look it over? Oh, there's one. Oh, perfect, right there. Anthony Wise. You know where it came from? Doug's still here?
Where did she come from?
Oh,
Do you know where she came from, our basketball coach, the girl, where she came from? Was she already coaching somewhere else? or- She brand new?
Yes, she was, yes, but now that you ask me, I don't remember. I'll text Doug and ask him, yeah.
Is that Nancy Coat right there?
No, that's it. You
Oh.
should notice that I'm in
Oh, I see.
I like to take up.
Sorry.
Did any board members have an issue or can I make a motion? I move that the district number 1 board of directors approve the consent items as listed in NAS 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, and 7.4.
We have a motion,
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
I
So you're onto your policies. These are second readings. Starts on page 41.
What's this one? Did everybody go over them or anybody have questions on them? Are we all good?
Yeah, that was.
Did you have a comment? I think there was. Okay, I did have a question. Yes, so on the wellness policy, okay, local wellness, page 47, where it, item number 5, it says every public school student in pre-K kindergarten through 8th grade shall participate in physical education for the entire school year. Students in kindergarten through 5th grade shall participate for at least 150 minutes and so on, right? But I'm curious, I mean, we have that, but if I remember correctly, they actually don't get 150 minutes because we don't have the facilities, is that? I thought it was timing. It was a time. It was time. I thought we had. Which one? So.
Yeah, there's not enough time.
Okay, so if there's not enough time, then what, I mean. We can't write a policy that violates the requirement, and so we say we're adopting, yes, we're adopting that. And then when it comes time to report Division 22, we acknowledge that we cannot meet that. We don't have.
Basically, they just set it up so that we were in the same cycle, it
Yes.
seems like every
Yes,
time.
we're
I
always
don't
working on it.
understand.
100%.
Like, I just feel like there's no room for growth in these policies because
Yeah.
we really don't have any.
None.
Very.
And I think that's what I was basically trying to say. I mean, I'm like, why make something 150 minutes when we don't have it? I mean, it should, or you're gonna get a waiver, or you should be able to amend it to some extent, that's all.
Instead of making us out of compliance at the
Yes,
end of the
every
year,
time.
that's what makes sense.
Okay. Okay, that was, other than that, was, I was just like, wanting to get it, to make sure it was. Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
I was fine on the second reading with everybody else's. Nobody, okay. Then I move that the Jervis District #1 Board of Directors approve the policies in mass, EFA local wellness, VCBDA / GDDDA family medical leave, GCDDF / GDDGF paid family medical leave insurance, and the LDE public charter schools, and the LDEA resident student to vow for virtual public charter school attendance.
Good. And then as shown in next slide.
Oh, as shown in action items 11-23-8.1. I didn't even see that she wrote that down for me. Thank you, Sandra.
We have a motion.
Okay.
Okay, we have a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then, of course, once you adopt policies, you have to delete the old ones. And I just wanted to point out the one that's about the appeal procedure for talented and gifted. That's already covered in your public complaint policy, so, and the procedure.
It
So
seems like it was
yeah.
very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, I move that the Jervis School District #1 Board of Directors approve policies EFA-AR and IGBBA-AR for deletion.
You have a motion? Second, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, at the last board meeting, I presented what our growth goals were for the integrated plan. I included the slides from the PowerPoint in your packet, so basically we were just required to give a month of comment time. There was no comment, or give you opportunity to ask questions again. And if everybody is fine with that, then now it's next.
I move that the Jervis School District #1 Board of Directors approve the growth goals as presented by Mrs. Stevens at the regular session on October 19th, 2023.
We have a motion,
Second.
a second, in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so your next action item is on the facility improvement measure, and if the board is not comfortable in making this an action item for tonight, obviously that's fine, you can decide to wait until the December meeting. And so what you have in front of you is the proposal from McKinstry, which remember, they are consortium pricing. And they're our agent, and then they go out to bid for the work, and they take the best bid. They're basically like a broker for us. And so we have about $500,000 in ESSER funds. We've been saying for almost 2 years that we intend to use that for some kind of HVAC upgrade. You got the information about how much the elementary school was gonna cost. Last month, where it was significantly more money than $500,000. And so, that's when I then asked McKinstry to look at the high school gym. So, I asked them to up the capacity number from 225, because that felt inadequate. If we're going to install air conditioning, we would want it to be able to cool the building for having at least the occupancy that we can have in there. And so I asked them to double that, knowing that, say, graduation, we have people sitting on the court and things like that. So you can see from their preliminary bid or estimate that the minimum cost for adding air conditioning to the gym is $632,000. That's the minimum, up to a maximum of $772,500. So then when I asked them to up the level of capacity to double, so from 225 to, almost 500, that's another $50,000. So that takes the minimum to 682,000 minimum to 822,500 maximum. So with your ESSER funds, that means that out of your pocket, you're spending either $182,000 or up to $322,000 out of pocket, if there's no bond. So the issue is that we have to decide fairly soon if you want to do this, because it takes time to order the materials, especially with the shortage of the supply chain issues, so that they can start the work in the summer, because that $500,000 has to be spent by September 30th. Any work you do prior to a bond passing, that's what you decide to, go for a bond. And prior to the bonds being sold, you can reimburse yourself for that as long as it's included in the bond language. So in theory, if the out-of-pocket costs of 182 to 322, you could then reimburse yourself from the bond sale. If the bond doesn't pass and we decide, yeah, never mind, we're not going to do this project, thank you, no, you still have to pay the $75,000 design fee, which is included in the minimum maximum price. And the cancellation fee for all the equipment is just over $200,000. So you will be out $275,000 with nothing to show for it. You could decide, okay, regardless of whether the bond passes or not, we are going to put air conditioning in this high school gym. Because if you decide that, or if the bond doesn't pass and the board decides to move towards closure and consolidation, whatever district takes over that building may want to keep it, and it will have a nice air conditioning component in the gym. You have the money. Karen, gave you this paper. In your charter school account, you have 1.16 million. In your building sale proceeds, so remember from the sale of the properties that we had, you still have $640,000 in there. And the excise tax, which is generated by new construction and remodeling, you've got 417,000.
I thought we discussed this at the other board meeting and whether we spend it on this or, and the bond doesn't pass and we have to close or whatever. I mean, that money's gonna go away whether we close or not. I think that's that already.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
We don't use it basically.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why, okay, because what's gonna happen is we're gonna get a bunch of pushback from the community that doesn't seem to understand that it has to be earmarked
Yes.
and used.
Mhm.
And so then we're gonna have, we need to make sure that we are clear that that's the situation that's happening, not that we're choosing to put in air conditioning because
We know that the air
You know.
conditioning at the high school, the HVAC at the, in the gym was identified as a need in the facilities assessment. So any monies that you're putting towards it now, just reduce the amount of what has to come out of the bond
Right.
and could go towards maybe actually putting in
yeah.
a cafeteria space at the middle school,
Right.
or, once you start ripping into, old buildings, there's all sorts of problems that are going to happen. It is common knowledge that when you start a project like these things, that you have to, what they call it, value engineer. Meaning that once you get started, the costs always run more than what you have. And so then you have to start tailoring it down so that you can meet the money you have available. So if you use your $500,000 to do this project, then that just frees up more money in the bond for those unanticipated costs.
I think that's the discussion we had.
Yeah, that was, and so that was for the elementary school project, which was
Right.
coming in at, 1.1 for just
We're
heating
the same.
and no air conditioning.
But again, I just wanna be clear for the community that we're
Yep.
not, yeah,
No,
so that's my only.
and they'll appreciate when they go see their kid or grandchild
Anybody
graduate.
that's been
It's
at
not
the
100
gym
degrees inside.
during
Oh, I know.
graduation,
I know.
I'll appreciate.
And what I'm a little impressed there is that doubling the amount only costs $50,000.
Yeah,
That
it's
was,
like a
I
no-brainer.
thought that was like gonna be a lot more, so. I don't know if I have an issue with this.
I'm for it. I think like so.
I think
We can't use it anywhere else.
I think it has to be done.
So.
What if we don't, we're losing money.
Well,
Yeah, I was
so
wondering,
here's what you could do.
500,000 is gonna
You
go
could,
away,
you
right?
could, the ESSER fund, the $500,000.
Okay.
So you could use that money. We pulled staffing out of there
Uh-huh.
because we didn't want to be in the same position that other districts are currently finding themselves in terms of their fiscal cliff. Because they artificially inflated their budgets by relying on ESSER funds to keep staffing.
Sure.
We have pulled staffing out of ESSER. Staff as we're funded, as we're normally funded. So you saw what the potential ending fund balance could look like. You could decide, you know what? We want to put the staffing back in there, which is allowable, back into ESSER.
Mhm.
So that then you can preserve more of your general fund.
But then that still leaves us without.
You have no air
Well,
conditioning.
we have no air
Yeah.
conditioning,
Yeah.
but my thing is, I guess I kind of.
I get it.
Okay, that's where I'm struggling. I mean, I'm thinking, I'm looking at that number that she showed me.
500.
Was.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. If this bond doesn't pass, why are we gonna put in air conditioning for the next 2 years? I mean,
Because the 500,000 is gonna go anyway.
well, no, because she just said we can use as ESSER funds to,
But we have
for
to
staff.
spend it by September 30th.
I can spend it by September.
You can spend it. She can use it for staff.
We can use it
And
for
then-
staffing costs.
Yeah, and then your general fund at the end of the, for fiscal year will be higher than this. What was it? It was
580.
580,000. It's something
I don't wanna vote tonight.
it's
I'd
something
like to
think
table
about.
it. I need
So
more time
Karen
to
and I
process.
can prepare some kind of scenarios and if ands and
Yes,
what's that look like for your December meeting?
yeah, so it's kind of what we could use it in staffing, what that would buy us, in staffing, what we would be spending the money on that versus this.
Cause I'd rather have a.
That's a great, good job, Maria. Thank you. No, yeah, that's probably a little bit smarter way to, because of your concern with the community and things there. And if we don't pass, it's absolutely right. We're throwing, could be as much as
Yeah.
$800,000. That's something that will, our community will, well, I guess. it will
Well,
utilize, possibly utilize, because the districts coming in do not have to retain the buildings, because they could
They
sell
can
them.
sell them.
They could
Yeah.
sell them to whatever. And so,
I mean, it won't be Jervis High School anymore.
no, exactly. No,
so-
yeah. There won't be Jervis funds of any sort.
As long as there enough time right now,
So we
for
have,
December, are
Yeah.
you okay with
Yeah,
that?
we have an earlier board meeting in December. Remember, we're a week earlier because
Okay.
the normal Thursday is too close to the
The
Christmas
Christmas
holiday.
break.
So, we meet December 14th. So
Okay.
it's just like 2 or 3 weeks. Okay, so Karen and I will,
we'll table that.
Yeah.
until-
Okay, thank you.
until
Thank you for doing
December.
it.
Yeah,
Karen did have an update on the question that you had, Maria. Karen, did you want to share?
Yes, so, sorry, I sat down and I realized exactly what that is. That's our beginning fund balance.
Oh,
Into the equation.
okay.
So they were just rolled in October,
Uh-huh.
and so they show that they date all beginning fund balances to 6/30.
Okay.
So it's all like 6/30/23. So it'll never show in range to date, will always just show in year to date. And the only fund we didn't put in when this report was printed for you was the debt service, and that had a balance of 190,000. So when you see it next month, because that has been rolled in now, it'll be like 5,389,583,
Okay,
a little bit higher.
thank you.
That is what it is. It's that list.
I don't know why this always gets. Yeah. I look at numbers all day long and this one, I don't, the way you get, yeah. It's the way the state does that.
Update this letter.
Yes, I was gonna say, so the letter on, I'm sorry, are we ready to move on to the
Yeah.
letter?
Yeah.
Okay, so the letter on at your seat has been updated since we were able to confirm that Representative Kramer is willing to be on a panel. I would like to give credit where it's due. Representative Kramer's handler suggested, why don't you guys just do a panel? And then that way you can talk about the story of service and why it's important from many different perspectives, as well as the financial component. So this letter highlights that Representative Kramer will be there speaking to what the legislature has done and what she's tried to do to help us. And then we have Rebecca Stucker from the architect talking about the facility assessment and, how she gets her numbers in the projects. We have Gil Miller, who is a former Jervis graduate and also general manager of Metcalf Construction, who does school construction and can speak very well, very knowledgeable about the difference between school construction and residential construction. And then, of course, I will be on the panel as well. And so I need to run this letter past Representative Kramer's office as well. So what I'm hoping is that you agree with, the general outline of the letter, and then I could just ask Henry to come in and sign it for you like next Monday or Tuesday if you're around. And then we'll get it in the mail.
Yeah, it looks good.
yeah.
I move that the Jervis School District #1 Board of Directors approves the letter to business partners and farmers as shown on agenda item 11. Excuse me, -23-8.5.1.
Have a motion. We have a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Moving along here.
Okay, the next thing is the approving the ELD K-5 curriculum postponement. I don't know how we missed that when we did the presentation last May, that when we pilot a program, you still have to ask for a postponement of adoption. So, because the idea is you're not sure if the pilot is gonna work and that's what you want. So you'll remember Bonnie Atwood gave that presentation back in May. And so basically, we're just asking you to approve that, yes, it's a postponement for K-5 for this year. And we have submitted that request to the state as well, and it was approved.
I move that the Jervis School District #1 Board of Directors approves ELD through
K-5 curriculum choice program.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second, any more discussion? All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
And then you have, for your review, the letter for the Seismic grant. That will go with the project if you are okay with it. Same thing, Henry, I'd ask you to come in next week and sign it.
There's just like a
Yeah.
minor edit. Did you
Yes.
see that to this gym space is not, this gym space not only provides a vast area that people could shelter, I think you meant, and the locker rooms for a community that has very few facility options. Or was that actually a but?
Oh, yeah, that's it.
It's an and,
Okay,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not right. Okay, I'll
Thank
correct
you.
that.
If we could just.
Yep.
Then.
Yep.
Then I move that the Jervis School District #1 Board of Directors approves the letter for the seismic grant shown on agenda item 11-23-8.7.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Okay, so you have policies for first reading. If you had any questions about those, they're covered, you won't act on them until December. So. And then this is the time of year where we need to talk about my evaluation process. So, as with you in the last 4 years. We've had Kristen Miles come in and help support you through that. So she does also the surveying and, you know, all of that. Is that something you're still wanting to do?
Yes.
Okay.
And keep building.
Okay, so, we'll talk with her about what her availability is and time frame. You do have a board work session on January 11th. And so if she can get it together that quickly, then maybe she could do part of the evaluation piece during that work session.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll get back to you on that. And now we have an update on the equity goal, which is goal number 2 of your strategic plan. And we have Dusty Price here, and Andrew was part of that. So Sandra, but Andrew had to.
Okay, so thank you. So just briefly, so the goal is to cultivate equity by honoring diversity, using inclusive practices and supporting students to achieve their unique potential. The next slide. Bring back the same team, and it is a phenomenal group that cuts across the entire district, very different positions, perspectives, and just love how collaborative it is, and just a great deal of respect for each other during those meetings. Next. The big piece last year was creating the equity lens that was approved. And so now the big piece is what we're gonna do with that lens. So next. So some of our goals for this year, one is to train staff on the use of, and then to facilitate its use in various teams and committees across the district. To also provide ongoing professional development for staff about cultural education that are like for the cultures in our, to really help staff better understand and appreciate our families. And then to get feedback from students and families about how accessible and how inclusive our programs and policies are in the district. Next. And so one of the pieces on the PD, the professional development calendar is so full, it's hard to squeeze much in there at all. So we decided we've had some during in-service, we had some recently with some tribal and shared history professional training, but we want to do some videos that, you know, not only be shared with staff, but then also in the greater community. And so these are cultural education videos. For example, we want to gather students and families from the Russian Old River community, various immigrant families, especially the newcomers from Guatemala that we're seeing in Venezuela, but just kind of gathering different stories and perspectives, asking questions. It'll be pieced together. Did you see the ELD video that was done recently?
Great.
In that kind of a style, kind of like a narrative of various people's. How did your family come to Jervis? What makes you want to come to school? What are some of your successes and struggles? Do you feel seen in school? And what do you wish staff knew about your family? And so we just want to kind of, through a series of videos, just really help primarily it's helping staff just be much more aware of our families and appreciating our families' rich culture. But I also think families and students are really gonna benefit from those videos too. And then so our next steps moving forward this year is the committee is, again, one is to reintroduce, to train the staff in using that equity lens. Eventually you want it to become just instinctive, that you just, those questions are always going through your mind instead of it just being documented. We're gonna facilitate that use in leadership teams and committees in every building on campus. And so we're gonna actually pull out the lens and walk through that process. The equity team is not going to drive it, but will facilitate to make sure that that group is asking the right questions, is having the right conversations. We're also gonna do the videos, and then we're developing a survey. This one's gonna go out to a representative sample across the district. We're looking probably at a sample size of maybe 55. It's gonna be about 4 questions, open-ended. We want it to just to be really good data. Sometimes like that survey fatigue is very real. And if you send it out, open invite to everybody, you get very strong opinions on either side that respond, but it doesn't always reflect really where the entire community is at. And so we want to be a little bit more strategic in how we do that this year. But I think it's gonna be great to kind of get a sense of where we've come, then also gaps of where we need to go. So that's it for this year.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, bond update. So as you are aware, we have the next community engagement is on December 11th. With the business and farmers, and so we'll get those invitations out here in the next week. We'll also send a flyer out, and then we'll have phone calls to make sure we get some audience we get participation. And then on the 12th is our Russian community engagement night, and so that'll be via Zoom and in person. So we've been working on that to build awareness on that. We have the student listening sessions that I shared the week after Thanksgiving. And then I'm constantly having Rebecca update numbers. We had actually 5 roofing contractors out at the high school today, looking at the high school gym roof with our consortium consultant to make sure that we have solid numbers on how much that's going to cost. And then we had Steve, one of the architects, come back and re-walk the elementary school, particularly concerned about some of the roofing issues that are happening over there at the elementary school. We had a pretty significant water leakage last week, unexpected new ceiling falling down. We have pictures of it. And so, we just are a little leery about what all is happening and making sure that we have right numbers so that you guys can make a good decision. We are going to have something that's called a thought exchange. And so it's starts with QR code, it's done electronically, and the thought exchange will be centered around the prioritization of the projects along with the costs associated with those. And then people can put in their thoughts as well. And so for those people who haven't had time to come to an in-person listening session, but maybe, whether for their kid to come out of sports practice or they're just hanging out, they can be filling this out, and then we can get more feedback in terms of what people believe are priorities on the projects, and try to get to see what that number would be for projects. We'll plan more walkthroughs and at different kinds of listening sessions in January and February. My plan is to still have you take action or to decide at your February board meeting. And so in January at the work session, as well as at the regular session, they'll be looking at more specific kind of projects and what real costs are associated with that and how much that kind of a bond would cost. We've got flyers that are being prepared to go out to the whole constituency, all voters and our parents. And so they're more informational. And the costs just keep going up. And so when you listen to the people from ODE, you know, if we don't pass the bond or we try to do something phased, you know, what cost you $12 million this year, by the time you're eligible for another $6 million, you're gonna be asking people for more money to complete the same projects. And if it just will never end, so.
I mean, the fact that they increased it by 2 million
Mhm.
goes to show you that, I mean, let's face the fact, inflation, everything else, not since we've been talking about this. It's, I mean, you're looking at a lot. So.
St. Paul passed their bond, so their rates will be $4 per thousand. You can see that Mount Angel's rates are just over $4 per thousand.
Wow. They got them to pass at $4. We couldn't even get $1.97.
I know, that's what I was thinking.
Are they that, anyway, yeah.
Okay, well, I will keep working on this stuff and,
Of the upcoming 11, 12, is that stuff that we can all attend, or do we have to disperse?
you need to disperse yourselves. You can't, because it's not a real meet. I mean, you don't want it to be a board meeting.
Yeah.
Right, so,
We're out.
yeah, I was gonna say, you're
I'm-
having,
If she's out of town,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's why we looked at each
Yeah.
other, like,
Yeah.
somebody needs to
Yeah.
go.
I'm
Yeah.
not, I am
So-
out of country,
Yeah.
so yeah.
are you able to attend the meeting on the 12th? Okay, so maybe Henry and Jenny, you could attend the meeting on the 11th.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Okay. All right, very good. That'll be fine. Thank you. Okay, any other questions about the bond in general? All right. I have a brief report card presentation. So normally at this time of the year, the state has released all of the data. They, for whatever reason, still have not released a lot of the data. So I'm not really sure what's going on.
Get our kids.
I
turning their
know
paperwork
that
when
it's
the
only
state
almost
can't even do it.
December. But you know, we have our own data that we can use and move forward. So I just have this at a glance, those school profiling report cards, we send this out to parents, so we need to get this publicized. And so as a review, when we publicize the report cards and the school profile, it starts with our enrollment, that's 1,260 kids, that includes Frontier Charter. And then it breaks down in terms of, you know, what was our enrollment, or what are ever English learners, the percentage of all of our kids that are served in the program, 40%. We still have 10 languages in the district that we're serving. 16% of our overall student body are identified as students with disabilities. The mobility rate was 22% last year, so that means that they've changed school because primarily homelessness issues. And then a free and reduced lunch, last year was a total of 81%. We are 100%, yes,
yeah.
because we have so many kids at each school. We're able to apply for that federal program and receive 100%. And then this is a breakdown of our staff. In theory, they say we have 9 administrators. I don't know who they are because I only count 7, including myself. But I think what happens is they also count like Karen and Tracy as part of an administrative team. But they're not administrators. 85 teachers, 27 assistants, 4 counselors. We don't have any social workers. We don't have librarians because we use classified personnel who are stationed in the libraries, but they get guidance from the library media specialists through Willamette ESD. So that's contracted service that they provide us. We have 1 school psychologist, and then 81% of our teachers have been in the district 3 or more years.
We get a little bit of a something on that, don't we?
That is if your teachers are above the state average in years of experience. We have been above that, and so I think we're barely hanging on. But I mean, it's to be expected when your workforce is becoming younger.
Yep.
So this is the at a glance profile. Sorry, I'm trying to move this for the whole district. This last year, so you have regular attenders. Remember that that's people that kids that attend 90% of the time. We are penalized because of we have, you know, population of students that have holidays. If they attend for religious reasons, that counts against us. So if you look at overall third grade English language arts, third grade reading scores are considered one of the benchmarks to predict high school success. So last year, we only had 26% of the kids meeting that proficiency benchmark. The Oregon average was 40%, but we did go up 3%. And you'll recall Cindy gave the data at the end of last year about, well, our kids did not make huge gains in terms of hitting proficiency. They closed that gap on the number of kids that were behind 2 or more years. So we would expect that's going to rapidly continue to close, and we'll get back up to some other levels that I'll show you here in a minute. 8th grade math declined by 3% over the previous year at 22%. You can see the state average is 26%. Also remember, because our population is so small, it just takes 1 or 2 kids to make it kind of swing significantly one way or another. On track to graduate, 73% of the kids are on track to graduate. That's 9th grade. At the end of 9th grade, they've completed a quarter of the credits, but also remember that's still including Frontier Charter issues. And on-time graduation, 88%. That includes Frontier Charter as well. And then your 5-year completer is 89%, which is up 6%. And again, with all of those, with those two, on-time and 5-year, we're higher than the state average on that. So I decided let's do some comparisons. Last year over the year prior to COVID. Remember, COVID hit the 1920 school year. And so the year prior to COVID, if you look at 3rd grade language arts, they the year prior to COVID, they were at 37% at proficient. They had done a 14% increase jump in 1 year. That was because of some very targeted activities that Creighton had implemented with his staff. We were still about 10 percentage points below the state average. So it will be interesting to see what we look like next year at this time to see if this has grown, if we've had that kind of a jump. 8th grade math, the year prior to COVID, we were at 43%. The state was at 39%. For some reason that year, we had a 10% decline. That tells me that there was some issue going on with the test or something, like the kids are not taking the test or they're messing around. It is very unusual for something like that to happen without there being a significant event like COVID. So, and then this last year, 22% of our kids met the math at 8th grade. Again, we just reviewed these on track and on time graduation, but the year prior to COVID, you've got this 81% and 70% for the whole district. So remember that include not only Frontier Charter, but Sam Brown. So when you break this down, this is the year before COVID. This is last year. This is the elementary school. I just wanted to do some quick comparisons. Our class sizes are the same. Our regular attenders, we were at 75%, which was a drop that year by a little bit. Last year, we were at 60%. It was a 1% drop, but we were just below the state average at 62%. In terms of English language arts, again, there we are at this is all grades 3, 4, 5. 41% overall, the kids went up by 7%. So this last year we were at 30% with a 5%. I have to look, I can't. Yeah, 5% increase. And math went up by 5%. And then you'll see science wasn't even recorded that first year or that last year before COVID. And so it started being reported out on your COVID hit. It doesn't really depend on that data. And so last year, 16% of our kids were proficient. I would also anticipate that number is going to go up because we have the science TOSA now. And then you can also see that the declining enrollment, 417 kids at the elementary school, 372 last year. But we're also remaining steady at that number because we've had more kids move in and transfer in. Okay, middle school. You can see class size has gone down at the middle school, but that's also more reflective because there's fewer kids at the middle school. But also remember that as this has happened, we've adjusted staffing. And so when we need to make reductions, we do that. Or when we need to reprioritize what we're spending our money on staffing, we do that as well. Regular attenders, prior to COVID, it was 82%. Middle school kids wanted to be in school. They wanted to be with their friends. And, 54%, it's a struggle. I mean, I think you heard every principal talk about sometime in the last couple of months, getting kids to school is hard. English language arts at the middle school, it was, at almost 50% prior to COVID, 27% last year, but up 8%. So that's a good increase. And, still significantly behind the state average. Math is at 18%, 46% prior to COVID. State percent is at 29%. And then science, so they weren't reporting on science that year before COVID hit. This year or last year, 10% of our kids met that proficiency, but also remember that last year was the first time our 8th graders had a full year of science. And this year we've added a full year of science for 7th and 8th grade. So that's where we talk about moving FTE around. Maybe we didn't need to have 3 teachers in this one content area, so we reduced it, but we added a second teacher. We really need to have 2 teachers in every content area in order to make the master schedule work at middle school. So now all 7th and 8th graders are getting full year of science. At the high school, you've got so the slides are flipped a little bit, or the way that this slide is laid out. This is the year prior to COVID. This is last year. Again, class sizes are down.
We're up in kids.
But up in kids because we have a lot of kids that transfer in. They like our high school offerings.
I'm sure they do.
They like Willamette Career Academy. They like the teachers that we have on campus, small class sizes, yeah. Regular attenders, so again, we're just under 60%. The state average is 62%, so we're really close to that. On track to graduate, so we're at 69% compared to this year, but that data does not include Sam Brown. Because Jervis High School was separate from Sam Brown. And so those numbers are artificially inflated because we had a whole other school, a whole other high school, where we put those kids that are hard to get across the stage. And so I would also say that this number declined because that reflected that we did not have summer school because the state did not fund summer school. So the only summer program we were able to offer were for the migrant kids. And the small portion of summer school that we were able to call together for the high school kids to finish up the classes that they had was only 8 days in June and a little bit of time in August. And so there is, for the short session, a bill on the table for summer learning. And so we're hoping that that passes. There'll be supplemental funds that we can use for that good program. And so last year we had 97% on-time graduation, which is higher than it was the year before COVID. We had, and then a 93% completer rate, which means they took a 5th year. Remember, most 5th year kids went on to Sam Brown, didn't necessarily stay at the high school. And then college going, again, we had 47% of our kids say they were going to college last year. The year before COVID, it was 53%. But again, Last year was all inclusive, every single senior that we had, not the Sam Brown kids spread out or split out from.
15% increase.
Yeah. And I would say this is gonna go up more. I don't want it to just track college going. I want it to also be technical. I want to see that data.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. So we'll work on that. And so here I decided to go ahead and pull up Sam Brown and Jervis High School as comparisons for the year prior to COVID, so that you could see, you know, what that looks like. The high school at the time had a class size of 20. At Sam Brown, they had a class size of 3 on average. Regular attenders, 74% of the high school kids attended at Jervis High School compared to 60% at Sam Brown. Because their number's so small, they didn't report out on the on-time or on track to graduate. On-time graduation, only 22% of those kids graduated on time. And then it was even a smaller percentage that actually ended up completing the 5th year. So if you were in Sam Brown and you didn't make it out in 4, the likelihood that you would graduate the 5th year went down significantly compared to if you stayed at Jervis High School. 97% of them were graduating at the 5th year.
I like that we combined them.
Yeah, I think that it demonstrates that there's definitely a way to serve all kids. Just have to be creative about it. And I also think that when you see exceptionally high graduation rates for especially districts that are larger, the first thing you need to ask is what kind of alternative program do they have, and is it separate from their high school? And most of the time it is. So I can't share with you what our levels of performance are. I don't know where we're going to be put on watch status yet because they haven't released any of that. I can't release that. I don't have the exact graduation numbers yet. So that's what we have for right now. But, you know, we can use these data points. We've already been working on this with the ELD program and Cindy down at the elementary school and adopting curriculum. I think the other thing that I've said before is what you see here is a lack of funding and focus on curriculum and instruction. And so for as much as there was no money to do just basic maintenance, there was no money to buy curriculum and pay for professional development for your teachers. The only reason that we have any of this is because of SIA.
Thank you.
All right. The last thing for your review is the sick leave policy, the sick leave bank policy update. This doesn't require any action on your part tonight. It's a draft, it says draft on it. It's at your table. As a reminder, this was one of the elements of the collective bargaining agreement from the classified negotiations last spring, but it is something that we wanted to put forward for all employees. And the idea is for it to bridge the gap between paid leave that we might have and other forms so that people are whole during a time of serious illness. So I'm going to ask that you take a look at this, that you send me questions independently if you have those. We can address them in December. It could be an action item in December. If it's an action item in January, I'm pretty sure I could get the union, the classified union to agree to that.
And still costs us, so nothing, it's just a volunteer thing for all staff to put into something.
Yes,
for
not
everybody.
mandatory.
It's not mandatory.
It's not
It's
mandatory or
voluntary.
anything
And-
whatsoever, so.
And since we're all paying into the paid leave Oregon, they do have that too. This is for like when they're new teachers and they haven't
Sure. Yeah.
got any time. So
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
see
it's
any
good.
issue with that.
I think so too.
All right, the committee will meet again. We have meetings scheduled, so we'll have a couple of other additions.
That sounds great.
Perfect.
I think that was it, right?
Is that everything?
Yeah.
Are we done?
Mhm.
All right,
We just had it back.
we're adjourned then. Thank you very much.
I'd like it noted it's 8:28, not 8:30.
Job, everybody.